what I do.
Florida put them on notice about our money.
Just like with this police review board they just came up with. No black person care about that. We tried it and it didn't work. No black person care about them speed bumps and them parks and recreation. They got old people coming out here talking about parks and recreation. What black people care about is our reparations. This city owe us, each and every black person in the city of Tampa, at least $3 million in reparations. And that's what's important. All this nonsense y'all talk about, all this nonsense, homelessness and all this other garbage y'all talk about, police violence and all this stuff, don't nobody care about that. Don't nobody real care about that. We care about our reparations. And we have to put white people on notice that we want our reparations, that our foreparents and us, we...
And see, and look, I appreciate what the brother's saying, but we speak boldly about what the white man did. But what about what our so-called African brothers and sisters did and their participation in the slave trade? What about them? And see, when you start talking about slave ownership in the United States, let me say something real candid to you. Who owned slaves in the United States? Was it just white people that owned slaves in the United States? Was it just white people that owned slaves in the United States? The 5 civilized tribes in the chat room owned slaves. That's those Native Americans that you all love to claim. The 5 civilized tribes fought on behalf of the South against the North because they wanted to hold on to their slaves. I want you to think about that. Now let's get a little dirtier. If we start talking about slavery in the United States and who owns slaves, did you know that black people own slaves? Did they tell you that at your African-American historical class? Did they say, oh, no, it was just black people buying their own relatives? I got the books. It was a lot of black people that bought their own relatives and then turned around and sold their relatives, wives, husbands, right back into slavery. Might have been your wife, but it was a slave first. So are we going to exclude everybody if we sued here in the United States? Everybody who's responsible for slavery, we definitely got to go ahead and file that lawsuit against the Coshada Indian tribe. We get some of that casino money, right? What about the black people that own slaves? One of the most notorious slave owners in South Carolina owned hundreds of slaves and was cruel to slaves, was a black man. So we're going to sue his defenders. You see how nasty it gets when you're trying to sort that out, as opposed to picking the 4 or 5 successor states, Nigeria, Ghana, Togo, Benin, Senegal, the Congo, 6, and suing them and making them responsible as successor states. That's a nice, clean lawsuit. Somebody type clean in the chat room. We know where they are. We know what assets they have, and they're easy to find. And most of you all with a simple DNA test can get on the path and track yourselves and your heritage right back to those 6 countries, regions that I just talked about. Nice and clean, baby. Because otherwise, when you start saying we're going to sue this one and that, man, you're going to end up suing some of your damn relatives. I'm telling you the truth. You don't have to like it. I've done the research already. I'm already telling you what you're going to come up with. It's a dirty, nasty game. Half of you all are going to quickly realize that you are descendants of the actual slave owners. So you're going to sue yourself? I'm just asking. I'm just throwing it out there. I'm trying to give you a nice, clean way forward, baby. Otherwise, it's just going to get messy and litigious. Shout out to LTD. Now, let's keep listening to what the folk have to say, because the people have a lot to say about slavery. And as long as we keep talking about it, it's not going anywhere.
on reparations for black people.
The national debate over reparations for slavery. Reparations. Financial restitution for black residents. Tonight,
In 2020, they became the first city in the South to approve that kind of plan. And organizers have been hard at work ever since, which has gotten me thinking a lot about what it might mean for a city to set things right, and in turn build stronger communities. The organizers in Asheville aren't just focused on chattel slavery, but also on the decades of government-backed harms that followed slavery.
Reconstruction, Jim Crow, the Civil Rights era, urban renewal, redlining, all these different things that have happened that are out there.
In fact, as they work through the details of their reparations package,
It's too messy, brother. I'm telling you, brothers, right now, it's too messy. Because you're gonna have Mexicans saying, "Well, we were discriminated against." You're gonna have Africans from the Caribbean. We were discriminated against too. It's just gonna get messy. You give standing to so many different people to file a lawsuit. It's messy, and it'll never get litigated. It would take years, and then it might end up getting dismissed. I'm giving you a nice, clean shot, a nice, clean route to it. It's nice and clean, baby, to get your money. Okay? Restorative justice for foundational Black Americans who can trace their lineage to a time period before the Emancipation Proclamation, who are descendants of African American slavery and of African descent, who were brought to this country after 1808, which was illegal at the time. It's nice and clean. You got too much. You have so much culpability in there. You can put that together. That's easy. Okay. What these folk, this is why it's not going anywhere. Okay. I'm just saying, this is why it's not going anywhere. You got the wrong people in
Middle
charge.
Passage. They've shown us every plantation with cotton.
Now, I want you to listen to this. Somebody type breeding plantations. Somebody type breeding farms. There's so many Black people who say, well, how do we get all those Black people over here? The way we got them over here, they had a certain amount, and then they bred us into existence. We went from 400,000 to 4 million, from 1808 to 1860. We went from 400,000 to 4 million because of breeding farms. And this brother talks about, people don't want to talk about this. Keep listening.
On it. You know what plantation they've never shown us, Abby? The most prominent ones, the ones that were most profitable, the breeding plantations. Why don't you want to show us those? You know why? Because after the research that I did for this album, you realize that the moment that a girl menstruated, she was put in a stable where a horse would be and forcibly mated, forcibly raped by a male of the slave master's choice. And when she had children, they weren't called children, they were called a litter of pups. The punishment for raping or killing a person in medieval Spain is gelding. Gelding is when you take hot pincers and you take a man's balls and dick off root and stem. Killing a person, law of the Bible, right? Medieval Spain, super religious. You killed a man, he should be killed. Why were indigenous and Black people categorized as subhuman? So under the law, you would not be punished for the things that you did to us. That's why. You used to be proud, right?
So the brother's bringing up a good point. Okay. Basically, he's saying the things that happened to us during slavery were legal. So how do you punish somebody for something, use the legal system to punish somebody for something that wasn't illegal at the time? You understand what I'm saying? That's messy. Now you got to say, well, it was immoral, but it wasn't legal. If we just punish people for everything that they did 200 years ago that was immoral, you bring up, abuse against spouse, abuse against children. It just opens a floodgate for litigation. And that's why this is not going anywhere. That's why your reparations argument is not going anywhere. So many people are stuck on emotions as opposed to using intelligence to get to an end. Now, I want to show you all something. Okay, this is another image. We're gonna learn something. This is the map of the United States. Back during that time period. I want you all to see something. Okay, this is what